There's not something that you can write on a piece of paper, these 5 things. If you do these 5 things, you're going to be successful at working out or driving towards your goals. It's different. Those 5 things are different for every person.
Yeah.
And that person has to define those things for themselves.
What's your goal right now?
Right now, I'm working towards deadlifts and donuts. So we do that fundraiser the first of the year to raise money for Aaron's Angels. I want to do a 400-pound stone. I actually want to do a 420-pound stone, and I'd love to be able to pull 700 pounds from the floor. So that's where my eyes are right now. That was ultimately what got me back out of the slump, let's say, is that I decided that that was the direction I wanted to go. I put together a 12-week program for myself, and here we are.
Brian's one of those places I drove by for years, and I always thought I saw the stones and the tires, and I'd heard stuff about it, and I'd only heard good things, and I'd never come in before. And then I was really excited to actually come in and start training here, and it's been a lot of fun. And I'm asking people and talking to you and learning more about this business. It's been around for a while. I think you guys, it's almost been 10 years.
Yeah. We've been in this location for about 10 years.
Yeah.
Going on 13, actually working on 14 almost now as far as doing the training stuff. Yeah.
Can you share the origin story? How'd Prime start, and then how'd you end up here in this location?
So I think it starts when you're young. I think every athlete at some point in their life thinks or dreams about having a gym of some kind.
Yeah.
But I'd worked a lot of different jobs, a lot of retail stuff. So I worked at general nutrition centers. And then I tried working at Walmart as management for a while, and nothing really clicked, and I always found myself going back to fitness through different portions of my life. When I was having hard times or whatever, it was always a staple, and I always wanted to help people find fitness, as I found great things in it, right? As I'm sure you have throughout the years. But it was at a point in my life where there was changes going on, and I just decided that one thing I wanted my kids to see when they looked at me was that I was never scared to chase my dreams. And this had been a dream of mine, and I decided to actually start taking the classes, which for us, you don't have to do, but I wanted to do it the right way. And in my mind, that was the right way to do it. When I graduated, I started training. I did anything I could. I was working part-time at the senior center. I was even doing senior yoga at one point. If you can imagine that.
I can't.
Chair assisted yoga even on top of that. It was a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah.
But and I was training one-on-ones anywhere, anytime, wherever. And I just decided that I wanted to do it on my own. And so I rented a space down by Finish Line, actually in the back of Christy Plemons' building there. And it was 4,000 square feet. And I had what I called the Skittles and a bunch of bands. And the Skittles are just small weights ranging from 1 to 8 pounds. And they went in these straight up and down racks, right? And I held classes for, sometimes there was one person. And eventually I grew that into 20 to 25 people. And I slowly added more equipment and had a little bit in the space. And I wanted to do even more than that. So then I branched and found this building. We renovated.
Mm-hmm.
And again, when I moved in here, it was more space than I needed. And as you see now, there's stuff everywhere. So it was a process, but stressful, fun, all that wrapped up into one.
When you first had the idea to open up a space like this, is this how you envisioned it? Or did it kind of morph into something better than what you had expected?
Oh, 100%. So I had an idea, and my idea was like more of an old school, for me, more of like a traditional gym. When I first came down here, even, it wasn't quite what I wanted. I had a big space for classes.
Yeah.
And I was doing a bunch of things that I felt like I had to do because it was revenue. It was something that pleased the masses kind of thing. But I wasn't a big believer, as we've had conversations in the past, of classes in general.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the individuals lost a lot in classes. So I wanted to gear things more towards the one-on-one, and more as we went on to remote programming and coaching, which is where I'm at now. I definitely feel like the gym is more what I envisioned, but I also feel like it's become more than what I thought it could be too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like I I was thinking about it the other day from a business standpoint. It's kind of like having kids. You know, you have an idea of what you want them to be and what you hope they'll be,
Mm,
but they're kind of their own
yeah,
individual. And
yeah,
so as they grow, they make changes that you would never have expected, and they turn out in some ways even better than what you
yeah,
couldn't have imagined that they could be that good in that way.
yeah,
And so if it was left up to you as a parent, you'd actually be stunting their growth. You kind of have to give them the freedom
yeah.
to become what they're going to become. And I feel like, at least from a business standpoint and from a fitness business
Mm,
standpoint, sometimes having that flexibility
mm,
and just seeing what happens and what direction it goes
mm.
makes it something so unique and special that you couldn't have planned it better.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny that you say the kids thing, because that was like I had mentioned, a huge motivation for me, and it still is today. Uh, that my kids see that the only boundaries that you really have are the ones you put on yourself.
Yeah.
Um, to kind of backtrack a little bit, so when I opened the gym, or when I started the training portion of it, I was 35, recently divorced, didn't have a job because I decided to go back to school full time, and was staying with my ex's family actually. So it was a
Wow.
very complicated time for me. And when I stepped into all that, I decided that because my kids were watching, I wanted them to have the belief, confidence that they can do anything that they want. And if they
Yeah.
saw that I could do it, well, of course they could do it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you started, I mean, this place is packed right now. How much gear did you actually have? Was it an open space and then you just filled it over time, or was it something you filled quickly?
Oh no, it wasn't quick at all. Like I mentioned, in the other space, I literally had the Skittles rack, which was like, it's a rack, it's about 4 foot long,
Yeah.
and a bunch of bands. And I don't know how much, I'm pretty sure you've used a lot of band stuff, so it's pretty easy to get creative with bands. It's hard sometimes to demonstrate on the fly in a class environment, but you can do a lot of stuff, and that forced me to be creative, uh, which carried over to the stuff I do now. So now sometimes I'll default to some of that old stuff and not even use a lot of the equipment, with clients who have issues in their shoulders, their hips, their knees, and stuff like that. Uh, and I might not have been as aware of those things had I not started the way that I did.
Yeah. What is the saying that was it necessity is the mother of invention?
Yeah,
Uh, So I
something like
think
that.
sometimes starting simple and staying simple for as long as you can,
Yeah,
it just makes you better because you don't have that safety net. You just
right.
have to figure it out and make it challenging.
Absolutely.
And sometimes if you exist in an environment that's too comfortable, it's hard to step out of it. You
Mm-hmm.
might thrive in that, but it can be challenging. But you've got a lot of unique equipment in here,
Mm-hmm.
stuff that's a little bit more geared towards powerlifting, strongman type stuff. How did you end up going down that path? Were you already doing that stuff when you opened Prime, or was that something you opened Prime and then you thought, oh, this could be fun, a fun thing to get into?
So let's see, when I opened Prime, I was still kind of piggybacking the gym bro mentality. I was the bodybuilder mentality, a lot of that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, as I went though, it started getting a little boring for me. I needed a change. So I was just looking for some different things. I mean, I knew powerlifting existed. I knew strongman existed, but I kind of forgotten about it. I watched it a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Kazmaier and all those guys. I remember seeing shows that they aired from Africa for some reason. I don't know why those stuck out in my head, but those did. And so I found a competition in Ohio, Battle of the Borders, uh, Mount Pelier, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. Why not? And fell in love with the sport. And so as I started getting more equipment, I tried to accommodate the stuff that I needed for comp to comp. So I started doing more and more competitions. I had developed at that point the basics. Like I had cage, I had barbells, I had a few bumper plates and stuff like that. Not a lot of machines though. So when I started competing, I started getting little pieces like sandbags. The log was a big one, um, and was able to accommodate some of my own training. I was still traveling up to Detroit at that point because there was a lot of implements I couldn't afford, and that was the only way that I was able to train the implements for the contest. Uh, but yeah, over time, I gradually got more and more of it. The equipment as of late, I tried to open up more. I wanted the equipment to have purpose, and at the same time, I wanted people to feel comfortable with it because I didn't want to have to be with them for them to understand how to utilize it properly. So some of the pieces I wanted that confidence for the general gym member. So I was trying to accommodate a little bit more of that, but still maintain my identity.
Well, what's the demographic like in here as far as members go?
It's a pretty wide range. It's not a very big community, as you know, but I have I have a probably the bulk of it. It's probably male dominant right now. Um, but mid 20s to, well, I got some that are mid to late 50s, and I got a couple that are, I got one client, she's 83, and she comes in twice a week, man, up and down off the floor, moves like an athlete. It's pretty incredible actually. But yeah, the bulk of it is probably mid 20s to early 50s.
Okay. Now, for someone, a woman in her 80s, what and you don't have to talk about her specifically, but this, I think stereotypically, if you walk in this gym, you're not thinking women, you're not thinking women in their 80s. But what was for her the attraction coming here?
For her, it was word of mouth.
Yeah.
And then she just came in and talked to me. And I'm sure when she walked in, she was like, I don't know if I'm in the right place. But I think if you ask her now, she wouldn't go anywhere else. You know, she feels 100% confident and comfortable coming in the atmosphere. And I think that is a fair statement with most women that come in here, which is why I started doing the caffeine and kilos for women the first Saturday of every month.
Yeah.
Try to create a little bit more of an inviting atmosphere. So for me personally, people would come in, they'd say, "Oh, this is more of a hardcore gym. Don't know if my girlfriend would like it." And I'm like, "It is whatever you need it to be. I mean, if you need it to be a hardcore gym, absolutely. I have all those pieces.
Yeah.
But I have the pieces for the other person too, the stay-at-home mom, the older mature adult that wants to just be able to get up and down off the floor and do their own shopping, stuff like that." So
yeah, I think the perception sometimes holds people back because they see something and they make an assumption about the place and about the people who go there, and then they have an assumption about themselves. For a lot of people, they're underestimating their own capabilities,
right.
And in their mind, it's not a match, when in reality, it could be one of the best things for them. And if they would come in and try it, they would realize that they love it.
Right.
And I think there's something to be said about stepping outside of your comfort zone, trying something new, having a positive experience, and then conquering that. And I've felt that with like stereotypical male lifts, like a bench press, teaching women to bench press and giving them that confidence to walk into any gym, grab a barbell, throw it in a rack, and start knocking out reps without having to ask for help and not having to feel weird. It's so empowering.
Yeah.
And you would think I probably in my time spent more time working on the bench press with women than I have with men.
Yeah.
And to be honest, they're easier to coach.
Yeah.
Because they listen and they don't have these expectations like I should be good at it.
Or egos. Yeah.
So they listen, they hear the words you're saying, and then they immediately implement, and then they get exponentially better really fast. And there's not that frustration barrier. And I could see why women would probably walk in here and be like, oh, it's not for me. But then I could see why women who try it want to stay,
Love it. Yeah.
because there's that conquering something like that and coming into this place and kind of owning it and it
Mhm.
being your space. And I
Yeah.
think that's something else that's kind of cool about this gym. It feels pretty exclusive.
Mm.
You know, you have your own little code, access code to get in as a member. A lot of times you come in, there's only a handful of people depending on when you come in.
Yeah.
You can control the music. You know, everyone's really friendly. It just kind of feels like almost like a private gym in a way.
Yeah. But once you come in, you realize it loses that hardcore facade.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because to be fair, I don't think I've seen too many people I would consider to be hardcore
Yeah.
lifters in here.
Right.
To me, the demographic is at least 75% novices.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are
that's fair.
just people who they don't really know a lot, but they have a lot of passion for it and they're trying to get better,
Yeah.
and they're just coming in and they're not afraid to try new things and look
Right.
silly and learn and fail and do different things. So
Yeah.
I think if someone sees this gym, they might expect that it's just a bunch of bodybuilders or
Yeah.
strongmen or professional athletes.
Yeah.
And they're going to come in and be shoulder to shoulder with some elite population. And
Right.
I'm not trying to have a knock on the members here,
Right.
but I think they'll all admit too, like, no, there are very few people here who are at an elite level of anything. It's just people, maybe if they're elite in anything, it's elite in their mindset that they're
Yeah.
trying to get better.
That's fair. No, so I completely agree with you. So most of the clients that I work with, or most of the clients that are in here, a bulk of them I'm at least programming for.
Yeah.
So they have that additional confidence when they come in, when they're training by themselves, to go about the routine or the exercise or whatever. To backtrack, you had mentioned something about the bench press when you taught a lot of bench press in specific. So the one staple that I go to for everyone, regardless of goals, is the deadlift. You know, so no matter who comes through my front door, if they're working with me or even if they're not, I am not shy about recommending some kind of variation of the deadlift for them to put into their program somehow, even if it's a hex bar or a rack pull, something that gets them to do some kind of that hinge movement, right? But no, the clientele itself is the only people that I think that would be considered hardcore. There's probably 5 that come to mind. Now, there's some women that I have come in here that are my one-on-one clients that I personally would say are hardcore in the definition of mindset. Like they are all in.
Laser focus.
If I say drop 100 carbs off your caloric intake for the next 5 days, add 5 grams of creatine, do this, they're like, you sure? Yep. Okay. And then when they see the results from that, they're like, it erases all doubt, man. So they get more and more confident in their own abilities as well. So everybody is always getting better, whether it's by default or through failure or whatever lessons come about or from guidance. But yeah, it's a very empowering atmosphere, I think.
Yeah, I think empowering is a good word, because if you can get over that initial hesitation to walk through the door, it's very welcoming. Everyone's really nice. Everyone smiles unless they're in the middle of a set.
Right.
And everyone's training relatively hard relative to their fitness level. They're putting in the work. And I think that's motivating too when you go to a place, and because I'll say 75% of the time, I don't want to be at the gym. I have other stuff on my mind, but it's so helpful to come in and you see other people and they're putting in the work. And, okay. You know what I mean? It helps you snap in.
Yeah.
And this is kind of one of those fun environments where every time you walk in, even if it's not your day, you look around and, well, I'm going to work hard because that's what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
And then as you get into it, it makes it kind of fun.
Yeah.
But I think that leads into the motivation piece.
Yeah.
And you've made this a lifestyle. What's your motivation to keep going as an individual?
For me individually to keep going?
What do you think about
on
those days when you just do not want to work out?
So they happen more than I'd like to admit. But I for one, there's got to be goals. You know, you got to work towards something. Usually when I've fallen off, discipline wise, it's because I've lost track of where I was going, what I'm working towards. And just this happened just recently, and I was having a hard time coming in. I'd get started, I'd lose my focus. Now, for me personally, I feel it's harder than for the average Joe that comes in the gym because I see all the stuff that has to be done. You know, I look around and this is where I work at the same time as where I work out. So if there's the trash needs taken out or someone walks in the front door, I got to go out and greet them because I don't recognize them. You know, it could be a new member. So those things are pieces of adversity that I have to come over, you know, but to stay motivated, to be honest, it comes down to, other than the goals, it's very simple, and you have to be consistent and dedicated to the process. You have to want to do it. Well, I take that back. You don't have to want to do it. You have to know that you have to do it. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So like I just had a DEXA scan done too. And the results I got, some were really good and some not so good. And the part that wasn't so good was my visceral fat was a little higher than I liked it to be. And ironically enough, a couple months ago, I started doing more and more cardio. And the only way I get my cardio done on a regular basis is if I get up earlier and come in and do it before my first client. So my alarm goes off at 4 o'clock in the morning and I get up, get dressed. I'm out the door in 20 minutes and I'm in here and I'm on the Stairmaster more often than anything else by 5 o'clock in the morning. And 30, 40 minutes later, I'm jumping off for my first client. Now, I've tried doing it later in the day for the sake of sleeping in a little bit, but it seems to get missed. So for me personally, I had to stay disciplined enough to be able to get up in the morning and get it done because that was the only way I consistently did it. Finding ways to be successful is part of the process. And whatever I had to do. So another example would be like food wise. It's like people who work in ER, for example. How do you get your food in? Because you can't take food into the ER with you, and you're in there for sometimes hours at a time. Okay, you can't control that. Control the controllables. You know what I mean? So when you're not in the ER, you have to be all over it when you get out to get food in your system. Because if you go back in the ER, you're not going to eat again. I think those little pieces of that, of finding in your schedule and in your mentality how it's going to benefit you to get all those pieces done and putting that puzzle together. Sometimes I feel like it's also accountability. When I was competing, I used to coach myself. Not because I couldn't write a program, obviously, but because it took the thinking part out of it and I didn't overthink it.
Yeah.
So it held me accountable. And sometimes that's enough to keep people on task and stay motivated and going towards that end goal. There's not a right answer for anybody. I don't think there's not something that you can write on a piece of paper. These 5 things, if you do these 5 things, you're going to be successful at working out or driving towards your goals. It's different. Those 5 things are different for every person.
Yeah.
And that person has to define those things for themselves.
What's your goal right now?
Right now I'm working towards deadlifts and donuts. So we do that fundraiser the first of the year to raise money for Aaron's Angels. And I want to do a 400-pound stone. I actually want to do a 420-pound stone. And I'd love to be able to pull 700 pounds from the floor. So that's where my eyes are right now.
Okay.
That was ultimately what got me back out of the slump, let's say, is that I decided that was the direction I wanted to go. I put together a 12-week program for myself, and here we are.
I think that's powerful. You have a measurable goal.
Right.
It's not vague. You have the specific weight on a specific date with a very specific piece of gear.
Yeah.
And you've written it down. You've made a program, good or bad. I think it's so much harder to fall off track when you make things specific.
Yeah.
Because I think people will say, well, I want to lose weight. Okay. How much weight? By what time? How are you going to, the details matter. So saying, yes, I want to do something is almost nothing without the how. And the more specific you can get, the more likely it is, I think, that people are going to reach that goal because of the motivation piece.
Right.
It's not vague. And if you really want that thing, and you know the date, the time, the weight, all these different things, you understand the process of how you want to get there. You can fall off track, but it's so easy to get back on the path when you can clearly see the path.
Right.
But when the destination is somewhat vague and the path is poorly defined, it's easy to just fall off.
Yeah.
One or two bad days and you're lost.
Right.
And I think that may be one of the best things about personal training and stepping away from the class model, is that people who have trouble staying on track have a tendency to get lost in the shuffle because they haven't gone through that process. And I think that's the really neat thing about the one-on-one relationship with a good coach, is you get to have those conversations and then you're on the same page, because now you haven't just written it down. You have another human saying, we got to go. You only have this many months.
Right.
This training session, we need to get this done so this is part of the effect
Correct.
that we need. So how much time with your people do you spend working on goal setting and motivation and those types of things?
It's funny you ask, because I literally am just going through all of my people on my True Coach app and messaged everybody in the last probably 3 days, said, I need a new set of goals. Yeah. So we need to freshen up everything from top to bottom. And I got a couple of new people that when they first came on, they really weren't sure what their goals were. They just knew that they wanted to work out and they wanted to go in that direction. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, well, I want you thinking about it. And this gave me the opportunity to bring that back up to them. And some of them kicked back just that. They were generic, like, I just want to be in better shape. Okay, what does that mean to you? You know, do you want to lose 10 pounds, 5% body fat? I mean, what exactly does that mean to you? And go beyond that. Okay, we're enjoying the workouts. What exercises are you enjoying the most? And of that exercise, our strength levels at, let's say the bench press, you're benching 135 for 10. Do you have a number in mind that you'd like to get weight wise for your set of 10? And just get them to think about what those goals are. Cause some people, they just don't. Yeah. You know, it's just like, I'm doing right by going to the gym, but let's map it out a little bit, you know? And the other thing I was saying to these clients, I'm like, let's start a year out and let's work backwards. You know, so let's say you want to lose 30 pounds. So I go out to the year, we'll mark the 30 pounds, whatever it is from their body weight. And then we'll back off to 6 months, 3 months, you know, we'll put in some short steps to set up some success, you know, and stacking wins per se.
Is weight loss the most common goal, you think?
Yeah. Well, actually, I find it entertaining, but when people come in and say, I want to tone up, especially women, I want to tone up. What does that mean?
Yeah.
So you want to lose some body fat, and generally that's what it is. Yeah. They want to lose body fat. They want to see more definition in their body, you know, things of that nature. And that's probably for women, that's the most popular one. For men, I got some guys that I coach that are athletes and competing. And so for them, obviously they have a little bit more structured idea of what they want to pull, deadlift, or bench press, or whatever the case may be. So for them, it's harder for me to get them to set goals that are more body composition oriented, nutrition oriented, stuff like that, which that's the biggest battle, is not getting people in here to work out. The initial step, as we mentioned earlier, sometimes is a little scary for people to come in the front door. Once they do, they've taken that first step and conquered that fear, let's call it. After that, it's all about nutrition. That is the biggest battle.
I feel like I've long been the believer that if we could change anything, if you were trying to change someone's body composition and health, and you were in this weird environment where you could only pick one thing, for most people, nutrition, I think, would make the biggest gains. But it's a double-edged sword because I think it also have the highest failure rate
Yeah.
because it's so hard, not just from a habit standpoint, but from a judgment standpoint. I feel like people, they judge themselves. They feel like other people are judging them. Food, there's an emotional component, there's a cultural component. It's so complicated. And bench press is not.
Right.
So deadlifting is not. The weight's on the ground, pick it up, put it back down.
Yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
refine the form as you go and we'll add weight when it's appropriate. But essentially, the meathead stuff is simple and fun. And I do feel like people gravitate towards that, even if there's that initial fear, they get in and then they get excited about it.
Yeah.
But the real gains, if you're looking at body composition, health, longevity, unfortunately, so many of them are so intricately linked to nutrition. But I always think the cool thing is that the fitness portion is usually the gateway to those changes.
Fair.
Because I think you could walk up to anyone on the street who was overweight, and if you got in a conversation with them and they mentioned that they're trying to lose weight, it would be no shock to them that nutrition is important. Everybody knows that.
Correct.
But they're not making those changes,
right,
for a lot of reasons. And a lot of times it's not even their fault that they're in that situation. You know, if you develop obesity as a child and you're raised in a home where other people are obese, and then you become an adult and you're carrying extra body fat,
it's normal.
It's not your fault at all. You were, and it's not even necessarily your parents' fault, because this may be generations of habit and culture and different things. So there's that. I never want to put it on someone that, hey, this is your fault, but it is your responsibility. And I think that's the big thing. There's no judgment, but you are responsible for your own body, and it's never too late to make these changes. And I think the cool thing is that we can get people in a gym environment and they can just have wins from the start.
Yeah.
You know, you get to PR, you get a personal record every time you come in if you're new, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you just keep coming back and you just get to ride those highs of surviving, and now you're thriving, and now you're actually kind of comfortable,
stacking
and
wins,
and you're
man.
looking forward to that bench press day or that deadlift day. And then you start to see the changes, and then you start to ask the questions, well, because it gets a little addicting. How do I get more? I want more of this. Give me more. And, and then you can say, okay, well, let's talk about protein. Let's talk about the different things, stress management, sleep, and all those things.
Yeah.
So with programming, how long for you and your clients, how long does it take someone to really buy in, not to the weightlifting, but like the total package for what they want to accomplish? Because there's so much more to it. Is it something for some people it's instant, or is it for a lot of people it just takes time?
It's different for everybody.
Yeah.
So I find it's easier for an overeater.
Okay.
When they come in the front door, because they're getting everything they need already to a certain degree. I mean, we want to start splitting it up like it's processed food and stuff like that, but protein, carbs, fats, they're getting a fairly good amount if they're overeating, right? So as they come in here and work out, they have the energy, they have a pretty good amount of recovery, and they start stacking those wins. And the faster they see those results, the more they get into it. Like you said, it's very addictive. And if I had to put a timeline on it, it takes me anywhere from 2 weeks to a month to really start to get into somebody's psyche, to understand how they see it, how they think it. And once I figure that out, I can start pushing buttons a little bit to push them in the direction that they need to go to reach their goals. And once they start doing that, the timeline speeds up. For an undereater, it's very hard to get them to understand to eat more food. Generally women, generally with a mindset that if they eat more, they're going to get fat. And they have this vision in their head that they just can't do that. and they have those barriers.
Yeah.
I have one in mind right now that I can tell you that I've gotten, well, there's two. One has really taken to it a lot. It probably took me less than 6 months to get her full bore. Like, she does anything I ask her to do because she trusts the process at this point. The other one trusts the process, but it's like pulling teeth to get her to eat 100 more calories a day. So, oh, I don't know, James, I can't eat any more than that. So it's different for every person. Home life, I think, plays a big part of it too. Married, kids, you've got kids, you're married, so there's other people in the house that have to eat and have to do all those things too. And I know with my kids, man, when they were younger, they love mac and cheese and hot dogs. So there was a point where you're cooking different food for different people in the house, and that gets pretty hectic. You know what I mean? So now that the kids are older, they kind of understand and they're better about whatever's on the table they eat. But those are challenges for sure, and it's sometimes comes down to financial. So in that scenario, mom and dad, they can't afford to buy grocery lists for themselves and a grocery list for the kids separately. So it's its own challenge. And then with kids in general too, it's like getting to the gym and things like that. With all of that stuff, no matter how you spin it, they're excuses, if we're being honest. And it comes down to prioritizing. So the quicker you can get someone to prioritize, sometimes it's themselves. Well, it is themselves. It's them we're talking about, right? So as soon as you can get them to prioritize for themselves and understand it's for them, things start to happen.
It goes back to goals.
It goes back to goals.
If you have the goal and it's important to you, you'll find a way. And if you can't get into the gym, push-ups are free.
Yeah.
There's a workaround. And I always find that conversation entertaining because people don't come to me for fitness. They come to me for pain. But getting them out of pain usually involves incorporating physical fitness. And a lot of times people would like to get back to fitness. And I think lack of time is the most commonly cited excuse, is a good word for it. And they don't see it that way. They see it as a legit reason.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take me more than a few seconds to help them see it from my perspective, because I can say something, how many push-ups have you done this week? Well, none. How many have you done this month? None. How many have you done this? So in a year, how many push-ups have you done? None. So your schedule is so unbelievably busy that in 365 days, you have not had the time or the energy to do one push-up. We need to study that schedule. That's insane. That's almost slave labor. We got to get you help. And I always say I'm being sarcastic, and they get the point. There are things that you can do, and I get it. You're a single parent, you got multiple kids, working a couple jobs. Time is a commodity, and energy is even more scarce. But if you have the goal, whatever your goal is, and you have a good reason why you want that goal, there's something you can do. And if it's one push-up a day for 365 days and that's all you got, that's 365 more push-ups than most people do in a lifetime.
Right.
So you're already better off and more active than a lot of people.
Yep.
And you've been every day doing something.
Yep.
And I think that's powerful.
And I think too, if they start doing that, it turns into more very easy.
Yeah, because one push-up gets boring, and then it's two, and then it's three, and then I'm already down here. I might as well do 10.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next thing you know, well, what can I do with this? Let's do a plank with it. And it just keeps growing. But absolutely, but again, goals and priorities, right?
Yeah. I think that's probably at this point as a healthcare provider where I spend most of my time. If I can figure out someone's goals and priorities, then the path to me becomes very simple. Because if someone's in pain, I could come up with a plan in my head, and it's not necessarily going to match their lifestyle.
Sure.
But if I understand their goals and their priorities and the obstacles that are getting in their way,
yeah,
the things they're scared about, the concerns that they have, whether it's I don't want to put on weight or I need to lose weight or whatever it is that they perceive to be these immovable obstacles that are getting in the way of their progress. If I can come in and understand it from their perspective and just move some of them with something simple.
Yeah.
And then we create a plan to get around the other ones. It usually works out pretty well as long as they keep doing it. And I think that's the consistency piece can be really hard. And I think people have a hard time holding themselves accountable, which is the cool thing about personal training and having a coach is you have someone who's going to call you.
Yep.
If you don't show up.
Yep.
Someone's going to message you if you're not logging.
Yeah.
And you're kind of paying that person to be kind of a jerk in a way, you know, because on your behalf because that's what you want.
Right.
As someone to not let the excuses pile up and understand, hey, you've got a hard life, but you also have a really good goal. So how do we make those two match up and keep moving?
Something else I like to use too, especially with parents, because of parents, is the whole kids thing. So you had mentioned about how it's not their fault. You know, they grew up, maybe their parents were obese and had poor eating habits and whatever that they learned from their parents and so on and so forth. I personally think that it's your duty to teach your children the positive impacts of being healthy and fit, you know, on a daily basis. Consistency is king, right? But if they don't know, they don't know. And you're right, you can't blame them for that. However, if you teach them, and not just about, so for young boys, athletes, it's a little easier, right? Because they want to be better athletes. They want all their buddies to be like, pat them on the back. Oh yeah, great play. You know, there's a lot of girls like that too. I'm not trying to say that there's not, but teaching them the benefits beyond that, like how you move better, how you feel better every single day, how you have more energy, and you don't have to default to the Red Bull and the energy drinks and stuff like that. You just feel good, you know, on a regular basis. And I think a lot of people, if they could get themselves to do that and teach their youth that, I mean, it's a pipe dream, but it would turn the obesity epidemic around.
Yeah, I think your environment has such a powerful impact. It's not everything, but it's really hard to make a change if you go into an environment that forces you to have inhuman self-control. That's tough. You know, if you're trying to lose weight and you're in a house there's constantly that temptation, and then you feel like a failure because you don't have that level of self-control. But it's just, I don't know. There are very few people that have that kind of self-control.
Yeah. It's discipline. Yeah. And it's not easy. Absolutely.
It always makes this subject always makes me think about, that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
Is it Twins?
Twins.
Yeah.
Because early on in that movie, and I bring this up to college kids, and no one knows what I'm talking about. No one's seen that movie. But early on in the movie, you know, they're introducing Arnold and the experiment, and they're talking him up. He's this perfect specimen, but they genetically made him perfect. But then they understood, and I don't know how much thought was put into this. They took him to a remote island and cultivated the perfect environment with food, academics, culture, art, all of these different things. And it would be really interesting to talk to the people who made that movie. Was it just a cinematic thing? It looked neat, or was there some thought put into it that we could take the most genetically gifted person, and if we put them in an environment where there's a lot of temptation, the person may not meet their full genetic potential. We actually have to control and manipulate the environment. I'm not sure. I'd like to give them that level of credit. Yeah. Because if they did think about that beyond being just a classic comedy. It's
Yeah.
a it's well thought out.
It was, well, I think it almost had to be. I mean, because that hits it on the head. When everything but here's the other side of it too. So when it's easy, when everything's put out in front of you, you want to go to the gym. You want to succeed. You want to eat right. It's when things get tough.
Mm.
I mean, that's the difference between people staying consistent, people reaching their goals, because everybody has those stretches, different durations, but everybody has them where it's easy.
Yeah.
You know, grandma and grandpa are watching the kids for a couple of months, and you can get time to go to the gym and go to the grocery store and go home and make food prep. But when it gets hard, that's
Yeah.
where the difference is made.
What do you think are the most common barriers for people that you, especially in this community, that people run into?
Most common.
Beyond
We've already,
beyond the lack of
yeah, I
time.
mean, that's the biggest one, but because it's time is so important, because if you think about it, time is associated with sleep, time is associated with nutrition, time is associated with the gym and working out, whether it's at gym or at home.
Yeah.
Time is such a huge factor in all of it. It's so being able to manage that time in accordance with your priorities and your goals
Yeah.
is the biggest way to win. And because I food prep is one of the biggest things for me, because people are so busy anymore that I feel like if you don't food prep, you're prepping to fail, because nobody that I know of that can just call a timeout and cook up a meal and get everything macro dense to where they need it, and then a couple hours later sit down and have a snack, again macro driven, 2-3 hours later get your workout in, and again sit down, macro driven meal.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, um because it affects all the other pieces. Stress, another one, right? If you don't have any time, you're stressed, and all of those pieces, stress, nutrition, sleep, those are all dictators as to your timeline of reaching your goals.
Yeah.
So if I had to pick something else, I mean, I think they all are equally as difficult or as easy, however you want to look at it. But everything's driven by time.
And that's a hard one too. And I think some people legitimately have less time.
Mhm.
But I think the interesting thing about being a healthcare provider or a coach is, how do you have someone who comes to you and says, I don't have time? And you look at their schedule and, oh, yeah, you don't have a lot of time. How do you program for success when someone legitimately has limited time and limited energy?
Well, even when there's limited time, there's always holes. We've already talked about that
Yeah.
in this last hour too, right? So maybe they don't see the holes. Maybe that's where you can help them the most, is maybe they got to write their schedule down, and maybe they got to get up 15 minutes earlier in the morning in order to have breakfast, you know? Um,
Hmm.
but I feel like, again, there's always a way to do it. There's always a way. It's not going to be easy. Sometimes it's not going to be a daily thing, but there's always going to be time. There's always holes that you can find if you prioritize it.
Yeah. I think it's so hard. It's easy to say that too. And I think there'll be people listening to this who are rolling their eyes like, yeah, but you don't know my situation.
Yeah.
Have
Well,
you ever run into a situation where legitimately there is no time? They can't do they can't make the
no.
changes.
I've had many clients, and I've had many scenarios and many different breakdowns, different responsibilities, and no matter who it was or what it was, I was always able to find ways eh, to make the best of it. It's not perfect,
No.
you know. If you're shooting for perfect, you're going to fail, and you just not going to happen. even when in fitness or anything, you have to accommodate for ups and downs. And when you go down, you just have to pick up. You have to, yeah, whatever you got to do, pick yourself back up, get back on track. Um, Vacation, for example, people go on vacation for a week, 2 weeks, whatever, and they let themselves go. And I don't know if I was talking to you or if I was talking to somebody else, but we just had this conversation not too long ago, and they just let themselves go for the duration of it. And then they come back and they really struggle to get back on point. Some people can go and completely let go of things and come back and get on point. But I think that a certain amount of structure has to be kept in order to keep yourself in line when you do come back, setting yourself up for success when you do come back. There's nothing wrong with taking a break. I'm not saying that at all. I've had clients that have gone on vacation for a week and have said, just take a band. You know, if there's a hotel gym, just go down there and do something for 20 minutes a couple times, you know, and do something. And, but I've always been able to find loopholes in time where we can fit food in, we can fit workouts in, we can fit whatever it is we're looking at to fit in.
Yeah. The consistency thing, I think, is the hard part for people who go on vacation, because if you're not consistent going into it, it can derail the progress.
Yeah.
So if you've got someone who's been consistent all year, 50 weeks, just missing workouts here and there, but just there's a high level of consistency. Towards the end of the year, I'm going to go skiing and take the week off. Probably not going to have any effect.
No,
because they'll probably come right back and be like itching to get back in the gym. I want to get working again, and that'll actually help them. Where some people, they may work hard for 3 months, they take a week off, and then they're just
they give up.
They're not back at it for another year.
Well, that person that went skiing, it's not like they're being sedentary. They're active.
Yeah.
Right. So them coming back, depending on what their job is, daily life is like, obviously, but when they come back, it's still normal to be active, to go to the gym, to keep that priority. Right.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, when people aren't consistent in the first place, it's almost an excuse to not do it at all when they go on that vacation. And it is absolutely hard when they come back, without a doubt. But again, I think that comes back to know your why, your goals, and understand how much weight those goals hold to you. Hence priority. And if it's a high enough priority to you, you'll find a way to get back on track. And the only way to do that, food prep, plan for success.
I think a lot of people who have trouble with consistency, they look at people who have success with consistency and they perceive themselves to be different, maybe inferior in a way. Like, that person is better. It's easier for that person than it is for me. And I think they don't realize it's hard for everybody.
Yeah.
That person may have advantages in their environment. They may have advantages in their schedule, or they may not. They may have more disadvantages than you do. They just have a stronger why.
Yep.
And they have a more well-defined goal, and they refuse to compromise. And I think that's hard, because that comparison can be the thief of joy, because someone will say, well, I'm not as consistent as this person. And you can step back and say, yeah, but you've been training for 6 months.
Yeah.
You hadn't trained for years, and you've been coming in at least once a week for 6 months. Yeah, it'd be better if you did more, but that's still pretty good. You know what I mean? You're still exponentially better than what you were. But if you compare yourself to someone who's farther along in the journey or has a different circumstance, you can get down real easily, because you just feel like you're not as good. And it's like, you might actually be putting in more effort. You just have a different situation.
Well, a couple things come to mind when you say that. So first, I think social media is a huge, huge veil. So people get on there and they post all their wins. So you get on there, some of these people that they follow is just win after win after win, when their real life is not generally like that. They're putting the highlight reel out there for you. They're not putting the backstory, right? I think I fully believe that. And that, for me personally, when I saw that, especially when I was competing, I wanted to make it more real. So I would put shortcomings in there. I would put the failed set, and I would try to piggyback that with the journey's not a straight line kind of thing, you know. And that's the other thing that with that is that it's not about anybody else. It's about you.
Yeah.
It's your journey. It's your line. It's your priorities, your goals. Over here, this other person, you're absolutely right. They may have different circumstances. They might have somebody that cooks for them. They might have this phenomenal income where they don't have those daily stresses, and they have somebody that can help them meet those goals. But it's still your journey. So what you do is trying to be better than you were yesterday, and not what John C. did yesterday. It's what you want to do.
And that's the cool thing about programming that I think people miss out on, because you get to see your wins and your losses, but you can make changes based on not meeting the goals that you were trying to meet. But you have to measure stuff, and you have to have enough data points along the way to actually make those changes. And it's very common for someone to come in and talk to me, and they've got pain, but they're also frustrated with other things in their life. And I don't know what's going on. I've been going to the gym for a year, and I'm not seeing any changes. Oh, what are you trying to see changes in? What? And it's very vague. And okay, so you're not measuring anything. What's your programming like? Well, I don't. Okay, so you're upset that you're not hitting an imaginary target that you can't see with a program that doesn't exist. So basically, for a year, you've been going to the gym and just spinning in circles, and then you're frustrated. You might actually be 10 times fitter than you were when you started. Your programming, although non-existent, may actually be working.
Yeah.
And you're frustrated with your lack of results that you're not measuring. But had you just been tracking anything, you probably would with the same results, you'd be super happy right now.
Yep.
But
they
also,
don't know.
I can't give you any advice because I don't have any. So it hasn't been a waste, because increasing physical activity with some type of consistency, there's all kinds of health benefits. So you're probably healthier than what you think. So you shouldn't be that frustrated. But then I'll see a lot of people, well, I did that for a while and then I stopped, and I haven't done anything for a couple of years because it didn't work for me. And I always feel it's frustrating and sad at the same time. Yeah. It's frustrating because not frustrated with them, I'm just frustrated with the scenario, but it's sad because they're willing, for sure. Yeah. They're absolutely able, and they are ready to make changes, but something gets lost in there, and then the confidence just goes way down.
Don't you feel sometimes, though, it's like it's because they don't fully understand? They don't know.
Yeah, lack of knowledge.
It goes back to the kid with the eating and the obesity. It's like they don't know what they don't know, you know. So if they don't know to write something down, well, maybe they were never told.
Well, what would you do with the information anyway?
Right.
I think that's for some people are like, well, I could keep all this data, but what do I do with it? I don't know what any of this.
Right.
I wouldn't know how to make the changes or interpret the information that I'm recording.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Right. But I think though too, is that when they start writing that down, if it is a priority, then there's a desire there. And let's Google. I mean, everybody's got Google, right? No matter who you are, where you are, everybody's got a cell phone. They can get on there and they can Google whatever they want.
Yeah.
Chat GPT now, right? So information's out there.
Well, I don't think it's an information problem.
Yeah.
I think, okay, so lack of time is usually the number one thing for me. I don't have time. I get over that real quick, because even people, to your point, who legitimately don't have a lot of time, you've got time for something. We can work towards your goal. Once we move past that, it's usually, well, I don't know what to do. And to your point, you got a magic thing in your pocket. They give you every piece of information that has ever existed. So there's not really a lack of information, but there's almost too much information.
I agree with
And
that.
how do you
Yeah.
take all of this info and then apply, like, which pieces should I apply to my life and my situation to get the most bang for my buck? And if you don't know and you're just guessing and you're not getting results, confidence goes way down. And I think that leads to the real problem with a lot of people. It's a lack of confidence.
So, okay, there's where training comes in. There's where personal training, uh, of any kind, you know, will benefit this person. And a lot of times people will say, well, okay, when it comes to personal training, I don't have the money. Okay, well, let's look at that. How many times do you go to Starbucks, or how many Big B? How much money do you spend there? Do you drink alcohol? How much money are you spending on that? I mean, usually you can find some money in there, and then you can, if time's an issue, that's another thing to go towards personal training, right? Simply because you go to a trainer, you don't have to worry about any of that. Well, like with my clients, they don't even have to worry about trying to figure out how much protein to eat. I lay it all out.
Yeah.
So that I eliminate that time aspect. You don't have to pull out that magical thing in your pocket and Google it, because the education and real life and science based years and years, and you can't replace that. They're not going to find that in a couple hours googling on their phone and stuff. So that's where people like you, people like me, can help mold these people, guide them, and change their lives ultimately, you know, for so many different reasons and on so many different levels that, I mean, shoot, you can turn somebody's life around to the point where they can be miserable and then they wake up happy, not overnight, obviously, but they wake up happy and they're smiling. They love to be around their family. They will love to be out in society, being a part of things, the foodie walks. They love to be out with people again. And all of it based around the fact that they gave someone else, not gave someone else, that's probably not the right way to put it. Got help from someone to help prioritize, shape, and mold their direction.
I use the Mount Everest analogy a lot. You know, if you wanted to go climb Everest, we could get on the internet right now and figure out everything. We could get a gear list, we could get a training
Mm-hmm.
plan, we could find the time of year, we could map out all the routes. We could read everything about everyone who's ever done it. It doesn't mean we're going to make it up.
Right.
There is a gap there between just raw knowledge and experience, and that gap can be massive. So we would probably still hire a Sherpa because the Sherpa's been to the top of the mountain multiple times, alone, with other people, with a variety of people, with a variety of people that have different challenges. Anything that's going to come up on that mountain, the Sherpa knows, can predict it, and knows how to get around it. And there's options. And even if something new comes up, because they're not overwhelmed with the experience, their mind's in the right spot to step back and be objective and look at the options so that we could get around that and make it to the top.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of times when people come hire me to help them with pain, I get to act like a Sherpa. I've been to the top of this mountain myself.
Yeah.
I've walked other people to the top. There are a million routes we could take. I got you. You just have to, but you still have to take one step at
Yeah.
a time. I'm not going to carry you.
Yeah.
There might be times when I'll hold your hand. I might pick you up for a little, I will there when you fall for sure. But you got to take all the steps, and and there has to be a pretty big reason why you want to accomplish a big goal,
Right.
depending on what it is. But I think there's a lot to be said for the value of having a coach or a healthcare provider or anyone to walk with you on the journey.
Absolutely.
Because even pro athletes, They don't do
Right.
it on their own.
Right.
They do a lot, but even the best pro athletes, they've had coaching, and the coaching has influenced a lot of their behaviors. You know, I
Sure.
don't think Kobe Bryant just came out of the womb a competitor. He obviously had that in him, but
Mhm.
there were influences along the way, and I'm sure his coaches at a young age and all the way through his long career had an impact on that. And it's the same thing with probably even more important, the individual sports.
Yeah.
You know, I can't imagine if you see like a top level, like Tiger Woods in his prime, he probably had coaches,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
I bet
absolutely.
they would all lose to him in golf. You know, if he went out and competed with his coaches, I bet he would destroy them. So he's not standing there, well, you can't play golf as well as me. What are you going to teach me? I'm sure he understood that there's a coach can be objective and step back and can pick up on things, and there's a value to it.
Yeah.
And I think top level athletes, especially individual athletes, they would need that.
Yeah.
But for some reason, as individuals, I think a lot of times people feel ashamed to ask for help. Oh, there's something wrong with me. I can't do it on my own.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, it goes back to the confidence piece. There's a
Yeah.
financial component too. People, you know, they don't want to spend money, or they can't spend money on certain things,
Yeah.
or they don't see the value.
Well,
Because to your point,
that's it.
I
Yeah.
think that there's usually, if once people see the value and their
Mhm.
goal is strong enough and they see the value of the coach and they connect with that coach,
Mhm.
the money does kind of work itself out.
Yeah.
Maybe they can't afford as much as they want, but they can still accomplish the goal
Yep.
and make that happen. And I think it's prioritizing
Yep.
things.
Well, that's a direct example of why I started doing some of the online stuff or remote programming, because
Yeah.
finances, right? And it's no secret in our community that the average household income is very, very low. And so I want to help people, right? So I felt like, okay, if you can't do one-on-ones, how can I help you? I'm here most days, pretty long hours. So if I write you a program, you come in during those hours, you have questions, I'm here. And if I look at you and you're doing something that I feel is potentially going to hurt you, I'm going to stop you and I'm going to coach you up and help you get back on track for that movement.
Yeah.
And it allows them to have more of that help that maybe they couldn't have afforded.
Yeah, the app you use is cool. I think if someone's never had a coach who uses an app to program, it's neat because you put in the workouts.
Yeah.
There's videos in there. You've got your notes in there.
Mm-hmm.
I get to, we log as clients, we log everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can communicate, you
Mm-hmm.
see everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see that there's tremendous benefit to not even, if you don't have the time or you don't have the money, not even doing necessarily the one-on-one component, but having the one-on-one relationship and coaching where we're still getting the work done, and you still have, it's almost like the Sherpa is, has a drone, and they're following you, and
Yeah.
they can talk to you. They're just not physically
Yeah. Yeah.
standing next to you.
Oh, that's funny, man. Cause I got so many clients that will be talking. I was working out the other day and I heard your voice in my head. I'm like, I'm glad I have such an influence on you.
That's funny.
Pull your shoulders back.
Do you remember the movie Snakes on a Plane?
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if you remember when that came out. This was before social media and everything, where there was a promotional thing where you could call a hotline, and they had Samuel L. Jackson pre-recorded, and you could give someone your friend's name and their phone number.
Oh.
And it was either Samuel L. Jackson or someone who sounded just like him. It was a pre-recorded thing. I think you gave some information, and their phone would ring, and he would call, or someone would call and it would sound like him, and he would yell at you to get off. You could say what you wanted to say, and then you had to go see his movie. So when you said that, it just made me think about that. Like, as I remember, there was like a solid 2-month period in college where we pranked everyone. Everyone's phone number I had got a call from Samuel L. Jackson yelling at them, telling them to get off the couch and go see his movie.
That's
You
great.
should create an app like that
Yeah, right.
where your clients have to put their phone number in, and then you just have pre-recorded things and you call them. it just calls them automatically and you yell
Put
at
the
them.
ice cream back in the freezer.
I'm watching you.
It might be a little creepy.
I don't know. You would have
Yeah.
a very specific clientele.
Yeah, right, right.
But
Well, and then so back to the app, it's like, yeah, so that I love that app because there's so many things that go with it. So a lot of things that we've talked about throughout this, right? So on that app, accountability, right? You have all of your stuff scripted, so you see it.
yep.
Videos, coaching tips, technique tips, whatever. You log your numbers, so you see progress, right? So you can always go back and in that app, and I'm not associated with True Coach, so I'm not telling people to buy coach. I'm just some of the benefits that I have from using it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can hit history on that exercise and it'll show all the way back every time you did that exercise the very first time from workout to workout too. So I might break off a workout and not use this exercise for a while and then come back to it later, and you can hit history and you can pick right up where you left off, and then so you can see from the very first time, maybe you did 10 pounds on the bench press with the dumbbells, and then, well, wow, I'm using 45s now, you know. But nutritional information, I communicate all that on there. I have a daily habit tracker. So stress levels, sleep, all of those things are on there. I do weekly weigh-ins so people can track their weigh-ins. Some people I don't do weekly just simply because some people it's the scale's the devil, man. If they get on there every day, they're so focused on that number.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get them to think, well, because it comes down to knowledge. Going off on a tangent for a second, but so if somebody wakes up, they'll say they weigh themselves every day, which completely the wrong thing to do. But let's say they do it. They weigh in at, let's say, 153 pounds. They wake up the next morning, they're 156. Like, oh my God, how to gain 3 pounds? Okay, what did you eat last night? Did you eat a lot of carbs? Because carbs hold water, right? And it could be water weight. Probably is water weight, but they don't understand those things. So then they get frustrated because they just gain 3 pounds in a day. And then if they turn around and weigh themselves the next day, that 3 pounds could be gone.
Yeah. It's like, I think a gallon of water is like 6 pounds.
Oh,
So
it's
you want
ridiculous. Yeah.
if you want to cheat the scale, you could just be like a wrestler and go dehydrate yourself. You'll drop
Yeah.
20 pounds like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Doesn't make it healthy. It doesn't
I've done
mean
that.
yeah.
When I did a big cut where I cut 45 pounds, and the last probably 8 pounds of it was all water weight, so I really wasn't. I got down to, I think it was 142 that I weighed in, and within 12 hours anyway, I was back up to 150. I think it was 156 just from eating.
Yeah.
Water back in. But yeah, so the app does all of those things, and all those things we're talking about where people get frustrated because they don't know, all of it's in there. I mean, I got a spot where I can put goals in there.
Yeah.
And it holds me accountable too as a coach, because then I can always go back to that and be like, oh, what was their goal? Because you got so many people, it's hard to remember sometimes which people are what for what goal. I mean, some of them are pretty specific, like we talked about.
Yeah.
But
well,
yeah,
you've got people driving by here every day, looking at this place, thinking about it, haven't had the courage to come in, or haven't had the time to come in, or it's on their wish list. If you could say anything to the people out there who are thinking about making a big change and are thinking about making that change here at Prime, what would you say?
the simplest thing would be just walk through the front door. And I understand this, for some people that takes a lot of courage to take that first step. I mean, people have told me. The one thing I'll say to that is I also have clients that decided to take that step, and they owned that after they came in. They're like, man, I drove by this place so many times, days, weeks, months, and I couldn't bring myself to do it. Looking back now, I can't believe that I waited so long. So to those people, I would simply say, just take the first step and come in the door. Have a 5-minute conversation. Nobody loses in a 5-minute conversation. And then if it's a fit, it's a fit. This isn't the gym for everybody. I'm not the person for everybody. but nobody knows until we have that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say as a member, it's more welcoming than you might think, because you just see this garage looking place with huge tires and Atlas stones sitting out there, you know, and then you come in and everyone's smiling, working hard, having fun. It's just, I think the perception doesn't do it justice.
I would agree with that.
But
Again, come in the front door, because you'll see all that.
oh,
You know what I mean?
well, I'm happy that we have you guys here. I mean, I'm happy the community has something like this. You've been here for over a decade, so
Yeah,
we're lucky.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for being a guest today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.